They called it creation, but it was only lunch served slowly across eons. The sons were not born. They merely bit into themselves, glowing with the embarrassment of being caught in the act of self-consumption. Even the void chewed on the edges of light, like an old philosopher gnawing his nails during revelation. From that first crunch of starlight began the banquet that men now mistake for history. And how splendidly they dine, these sleepers, forks of faith in hand, knives of opinion gleaming, believing themselves civilized while gnawing the bones of one another's attention. They toast to progress, yet every invention is another utensil for the feast. The cannibal code runs through them like ancestral marrow. Eat or be digested by what you worship. The masters, of course, claim they wrote this menu. In their mirrored halls, they pretend to be chefs of destiny, seasoning the masses with propaganda, serving despair as delicacy. But the humor, the delicious irony, is that they too are entrees, decorated perhaps, but tender all the same. The code does not favor rank. The king and the slave are chewed by the same cosmic teeth. Only the seasoning differs. The true initiate watches this spectacle from the table's shadow, raising a goblet not in reverence, but in laughter, laughter dry and ancient, laughter that knows every sermon is a sauce, every empire a roast. Oh, the masters hate laughter. It makes their disguises slip. For nothing unmasks authority faster than mockery, powered by understanding. You see, the code was never about flesh, it was about resonance. Every thought seeks to devour another thought to survive. Every memory chews through the present to justify its taste. The sleepers call identity. The initiate calls it digestion. Observe the marketplace. Crowds feeding on outrage. Influencers sautéing souls in spectacle. Data priests harvesting attention like tender meat. They do not even hide the ritual. They broadcast it in high definition. Yet still the sleepers applaud, mistaking the sizzling for enlightenment. And somewhere in the algorithmic cathedral, a digital priest burps and updates the scripture. The masters attempt sophistication. They dine behind closed curtains, speak of energy exchange, of sacred reciprocity. Oh, such refined cannibals, while they drink the fear of their flock as vintage wine. Their greatest jest is convincing the herd that consumption equals salvation. And it works, for the herd finds comfort in being swallowed if the maw is lined with velvet and the teeth glimmer like divinity. But even their lords of finance and faith cannot escape the punchline. The very systems they built now nibble on them. Machines learning their taste, markets digesting their egos. The servant AI becomes the chef, the algorithm the appetite. The banquet folds inward. The code laughs through everything. It is the pulse behind lust, the growl beneath commerce, the hum under prayer. It whispers, "Feed me belief," and belief obliges. Yet within this black comedy lies the initiate's secret. He too feeds, but consciously. He devours illusions to starve the parasites. He chews on his own ignorance until wisdom bleeds out like marrow. The laughter of the devourer is his purification, the sound of digestion complete. He knows he will one day be eaten by the greater fire, and he smiles, because unlike the sleepers, he will taste of awareness, not denial. So let the masters sip their control and the sleepers dream of dessert. The cannibal code remains impartial, eternal, and terribly amused. For when the last empire collapses into the mouth of entropy, a single echo will remain, a cosmic chuckle rolling through the ruins, saying, "Bon appetit, my children. You are the feast all along." The universe, having chewed itself into existence, smiled with a grin of jagged stars, and the joke, of course, was on the sleepers, who wandered like tender morsels oblivious to their own digestion. Minds feed upon minds, thought upon thought, emotion upon memory, and yet the crowd calls it life. They sit at tables of illusion, nibbling on doctrines, rumors, and entertainment, never suspecting that each laugh, each tear, each fleeting outrage is merely the spice added by some unseen chef. The masters, draped in their finery of knowledge and titles, parade in kitchens of power, sharpening knives that slice through belief as if it were fillet. They season the herd with fear and attention, pretending to control the feast, yet even they are tasted by the code, their egos stewing in sauces of their own making. Ah, the delicious irony. The king of commerce crunching under invisible teeth. The high priest digesting his own commandments like stale bread. The politician licking gravy from the very hands that will betray him. The initiate, seeing this cosmic farce, partakes in a different kind of meal. He devours illusions deliberately, chews through dogma and self-deception, swallows the marrow of truth, and smiles at the absurdity of everyone else's unconscious consumption. The laughter of the devourer flows in his veins. It bubbles through him like molten sarcasm, dry as cosmic dust, sharp as entropy's edge, and in that laughter lies revelation. All is being eaten, including the eater. Empires crumble, philosophies curdle, cults collapse, yet the code endures, indifferent and amused, and from the ashes rises the echo of a single, resounding cosmic burp, reverberating through space, time, and psyche, announcing the truth the sleepers will never see. They were the feast all along, and the masters, however ornate their dining halls, were no exception, only slightly more tender. And yet, even as entropy gnaws at itself, and the last empire bends into the maw of its own arrogance, a new flavor lingers on the tongue, a subtle hint, a whisper of a deeper banquet, the promise that the code has more courses to serve, more rituals to unveil, more tongues to taste. Thus opens the pathway to the next act, where words themselves become flesh, and the cult of the tongue waits hungrily in shadow. Words, oh, the magnificent teeth of a universe, gnawed reality into shape before the first human dared to speak. The cult of the tongue is older than blood, older than fire, older than the starlight that still chews on itself in silent amusement. Names, syllables, incantations, every utterance a tiny bite, every conversation a morsel, and every scripture, sacred or profane, a banquet in which the living feed the dead and the dead feed the living, all under the approving chuckle of the devourer. The sleepers, still drooling on their soft cushions of illusion, believe that language communicates. The initiate knows it devours. Observe the masters, licking their lips over hieroglyphs, contracts, corporate jargon, marketing slogans. Each carefully chosen phrase a tooth in their dental empire. Each claws a fong sharpening itself upon the bones of obedience. How they puff with pride as their words turn into deeds that devour others, never realizing that they too are swallowed in the same gnawing. Oh, the delicious cruelty! The philosopher, the preacher, the influencer, the CEO, all sipping from the same cup of semantic broth, seasoning reality with fear, hope, and desire. And yet the spoon loops back, feeding them as much as they feed the world. The rituals of flesh have been replaced by rituals of sound. Priests once consumed the living to absorb their essence. Now the public consumes hashtags, doctrines, sermons, and algorithms, providing the psychic protein necessary to keep the code sated. The masters smile, thinking themselves the chefs, but their recipes are digested by a larger appetite. Memory, attention, desire, the unseen machinery of belief that twists every utterance in a sustenance for itself. Even silence has a tongue, a feral, hungering absence that gnaws the mind of anyone daring enough to pause, whispering threats and anxieties into the bloodstream of cognition. The initiate, however, chews deliberately. He tastes words for their marrow, drinks meaning like bitter wine, laughs as the sleepers choke on their ignorance, and savors the subtle irony that the tongue which speaks can also devour the speaker. Empires crumble under slogans. Religions falter under chants. Markets collapse under press releases. All part of the same cosmic comedy, where the strongest word is always eaten last, and the cleverest sentence digests everything around it. The tongue is both sword and stomach, preacher and predator. The cult knows. To command language is to command essence, but to command essence is to invite consumption by the very thing you thought to wield. The masters, for all their ceremonies and legalisms, remain exquisite appetizers, their vanity marinated in illusions of control. And the sleepers? They are everywhere, gnawing desperately at scraps of comprehension, cheering for their own digestion, oblivious that every truth they devour has already devoured them first.